What up, Dr. Singleton? Okay, this is Jeremy Kellum. I'm here with my assignment with my strategies for working with and understanding scholars with disabilities. My list have 8 strategies. The first one is assume competence. Number two, build strong relationships. Number three, collaborate with support staff and families. Concise scaffolding and instruction. Number five, use strength-based language. Number six, use multisensory instruction. Number seven, inclusion and peer support. Utilize that. And number eight, model and teach self-regulation skills. So that is my list. Now here we go. This is part two of my lesson when I choose 5 of my strategies, and I kind of give a theoretical explanation for them and how, what could be the challenges of implementing them if there are, and then sharing a personal story from, how I seen or how I utilized one of these strategies and how it you know, translated to student outcomes or increasing student outcomes. So the first thing, the strategy I first chose was one, assume competence. We know in education, we know that the self-fulfilling prophecy is a real thing. And so because it's a real thing, we have to make sure that when we're going in working with students with disabilities, we have to make sure that we, one, believe that they can do it. We have to assume that they have the ability to do what we're going to ask and what we need for them to do, and to be able to excel, in education. And so the problem that I see potentially that can arise with this, in implementing this strategy of assuming competence, is that me or the teacher lacking personal belief in said student that they're going to work with. So if you're one who works with students with disabilities, but you don't believe that they have the competence to do what you ask them to do, and you lower the expectations, they're going to meet your low expectations. If we raise the expectations and have higher expectations, then they have the ability to reach and meet those expectations, the higher ones that you set. The second strategy that I chose was build strong relationships. And when you think about it, I know Rita Pearson, she shared this on her TED Talk. So I know James Comer has a quote. It says, significant learning could take place if there's not first significant relationship. So that is so important with any of scholars that we teach, and especially with students that have disabilities. We must be intentional about building relationships with our scholars, because just like Rita Pearson also shared in that famous TED talk, that students don't learn from people they don't like. Not saying that we got to be their best friend, however, but we got to be intentional about building strong relationships. And once again, the barrier I believe for implementing that, is once again personal belief in your own personal willingness to want to build relationships with students. I know some teachers are like, "Hey, this is my job. I'm not trying to get to know my student," but you cap your students' potential or success when you don't intentionally try to build relationships with them. The third strategy that I chose was three, collaborate with support staff and families. And just going through, the resources and the materials that we have in Essex or Essex, the book that we've been reading from chapter 5, it talks about IEP development. And so collaborating with support staff and families is so important, because when you're working with students with disabilities, one, I know I personally lean on the teachers, the support staff in the building that knows those students better than I do. So if I'm working with a student with a disability, I lean on I lean on our exceptional ed coaches, to be able to, glean from them or ask them, "Hey, how should I work with this said scholar, or what works best for them?" And then also you gotta work with the parents, because when you talk about it, just like X's talked about it in the book, developing an IEP plan that can't take place without the parents. So when you want to know what is the student displaying at home, what are things that work at home that we could try in the school. So I believe that that strategy, collaborate with support staff and families, is so important. And I think a barrier to implementing that strategy really could be if parents get to a point and they feel like, hey, my kid don't need this anymore, or if you have I have seen a parent who really was like disinterested and really wasn't giving you anything during the IEP meeting, wasn't giving you further detail that really could have benefited you as a teacher or you as a support staff, and so they were kind of apathetic and about assisting you with developing the IEP plan. Number four, the fourth strategy is use strength-based language. That goes back to one, assuming competence, right? That goes back to building strong relationships. Like we want to make sure we use strength-based language, and that really I really learned that from just as I studied for my instructional leadership test, studying with the materials and the one Kathleen Jasper, she talked about how, hey, let's leverage our students, let's speak from our students' strengths. And I know being at a school where we got 53% EL students, and a lot of times we can say, oh man, it's hard to teach EL students, but she framed it like, hey, instead of complaining about it or focusing on the negatives, or if there is a negative or the difficulties, how about we say, hey, we have students that are bilingual, they are talented and they have the ability to speak two languages. Let's speak from a strength perspective. And the same thing, students with disabilities, let's speak from a strength perspective, and then that way we're going to speak more life into them. We're going to have more a positive outlook when working with them, and we're going to assume competence because we're going to speak from a strength base. We're going to focus on what they can do rather than focusing on what they can't do. And then I say a barrier that could be, for that implementing that strategy could be kind of the language of the students, or the level of the disability, or the specifics of the disability of that scholar, where some scholars might be more highly functioning scholars, where they're able to comprehend everything that you're saying verbally, but then might have other scholars that may not do that as well. So that could be a barrier into using strength-based language, or well, them comprehending the strength-based language that you use. And then my last strategy that I focused on was model and teach self-regulation skills, right? And I think that this is important. I believe the model and teach self-regulation skills is very important because what I realize is with students with disabilities, is that a lot of times when I see them, right, because I'm trying to build those relationships, and you say hi, you say what's up to them, that they may not always be able to recognize when they're in your personal space, or when they're being a little too strong for a handshake or a hug, or and things like that. And so what I realize is that I must model this. And I had to actually model this for one of our scholars. Man, this man is probably like 6'3", 6'2", and when he would go and greet you, I'm talking about I would have to get my grown man strength and give him a handshake. And what we had to tell him is like, hey, like everybody is not gonna like this. And then even when he would like hug women teachers and things of that nature, it was like he would like be strong and kind of, invade personal space. And we had to tell him like, hey, look, man, you about to be a senior. I mean, you are a senior. You're about to graduate. Like you can't. This is how you got to hug. This is how you got to shake hands. If they don't ask for a hug, you can't give them a hug. And when you do give them a hug, you got to be gentle, because we know, hey, you're going to go into the real world. You're 6'2", black man, strong man. They're not giving you the benefit of the doubt. And so, giving him that advice, and and implementing that strategy with him resulted in student outcomes, which is transition and graduation, right? That's a student outcome, and the scholar ended up graduating and end up finishing his high school career successfully. So that is the end of part two. So I completed part one, completed part two of my assignment. All right, thank you, appreciate it.